So I'm Chris Arnold. I'm the Director of Learning and Teaching for the College of Engineering. So I look after all of the taught elements within the College of Engineering, which includes sports and exercise science as well.
I'm Laura Roberts, and I'm the Director of Learning and Teaching for Science. So I cover chemistry, biosciences, computer sciences, maths. I already said chemistry, didn't I? What am I missing in there? Geography? And I think, yeah.
Science, maths, geography, physics.
Physics, there we go. So I cover 6 disciplines.
Okay, Rhiannon, do you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Rhiannon. I'm a 4th year mechanical engineering student.
And Michaela?
Hi, I'm Michaela and I'm a 1st year computer science student.
Thank you. And Hayley and then Stuart.
Hi, I'm Hayley. I'm the manager for the student information team, which is part of the support team for the Faculty of Engineering and Science.
And my name's Stuart Toomey, and I'm the operational lead for student experience within science, but I'm actually here tonight with my employability hat on, so I'm actually one of the directors of employability for science.
Brilliant. Okay, so obviously this has been a really strange year at the university, as it has been for everybody, you know, wherever you all are listening to this event today. And, you know, we've had a mixture since we started in September of some on-campus activities and, of course, lots of online activities. And we're, you know, in the middle of planning for the next academic year and trying to see what's possible. Obviously, we have to be very mindful of the Welsh Government and the UK Government regulations as to what we're going to be able to do. Particularly Chris and Laura and all of our academic staff, though, are doing lots of planning as to kind of what that might look like. And I think are going to take us through some of those thoughts in this webinar this evening. We also want to have plenty of time for your questions so that we can make this an interactive session and that we can, you know, try and answer some of the things that you've got questions to. So for those of you just joining, I can see some participants have just come in. Welcome. This is for all offer holders for all courses within the Faculty of Science and Engineering. Okay, I think I'm handing over to Laura next.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, Ruth. I thought Chris would have gone first.
Oh, Chris, apologies, Chris. You know.
Fine. That's absolutely fine. So I've been asked just to tell you a little bit about the teaching, I guess, that we delivered last year and how we managed to cope with the pandemic, and then a little bit about what we're planning for next year, I guess. So, you know, the pandemic was a big shock to us, and going into it, we were working on different numbers, like how many we can get into a lab and how much face-to-face activities and that we could do. So it was a real challenge, but we've done really well, and we're really proud actually of the experience that we managed to give our students with the remote learning and the challenges that went ahead. So in science, we're a very practical discipline, as with engineering, and we wanted to prioritize making sure we got as many of the sort of core skills and lab activities delivered as possible. So we strive to do lots and lots of face-to-face activities in our laboratories, for example. So our chemists, our bioscientists, and our geographers managed to get in the labs quite a lot. So for all year groups, we managed to deliver all of the core skills and the really important technical skills that they develop by doing different experiments and that sort of thing. We also even managed to take the students out into the field. So I run a module where I normally take my students to Bristol Zoo, which is quite a lot of fun, but we weren't allowed to cross the border this year. So we went to our local Plantasia, which is just down the road, and it was just as good, I guess, in many different ways. So how learning looked for us. So we had a new learning platform, so a new online platform just as the pandemic hit, which actually was really fantastic because the platform we had actually helped us to deliver a better online experience than the previous one we had. So our modules sort of looked like there'd be some online material, maybe a recorded video, for example, or a little quiz that students had to work through, or a bit of reading. We then delivered most of our lectures over Zoom. So Zoom was really great and a really helpful tool, actually, because we managed to have some really interactive lectures where the students were able to ask questions. We were able to feed back to them, and we were also able to use little quizzes and have like sort of live interactions and that sort of thing. But then most of our practicals, we're really lucky. We've got a huge lab here in biosciences. And even though we had to social distance, we still managed to get the students in to do those experiments really safe, to make sure they could, you know, stay apart from each other and keep 2 meters apart. And that worked out to be really successful. It just meant that we had to repeat our sessions quite a lot. But, you know, it was fine for the students, just a little bit tiring for the staff, really. I think that one thing we did really well, and that we've had great feedback from our students about, was actually the support that's been provided to them. So we managed to make sure that we increased the number of tutorials, so students had contact with their tutees throughout. Our tutorials were run on Zoom as well, so we didn't have any in-person tutorials, but they still had a really good level of support, which I think they've really benefited from and really appreciated. We've also had a really strong sense across the college of well-being support as well. So our administrators have been there to help students if they've had any issues with illness or stress and that sort of thing. And we've changed our assessment policies to make sure that if there are any problems, if there were any issues with the pandemic, we were able to make sure that students could still undertake their assessments and still progress and still do really, really well out of the learning they've been provided with. I think that pretty much in a nutshell covers it, without going into detail about the curriculums and that sort of thing, which I don't think you're looking for at this stage, really, were you? So Chris, over to you for
Okay. A lot was similar within the engineering programs, but I'll pick up on a few other things as well. Obviously, we had a range of things happening last year. So for the first term, sort of through the autumn to Christmas, we had on-site access was okay, but we were limited in terms of the room capacity due to social distancing. We then did have a period pretty much of quite extensive lockdown through the sort of January, February into March, where we had to turn almost everything online. We then came back for some on-site activities more recently. We're hoping, and we're sort of, I think, keeping our fingers crossed that we will be in the realms of things being on site but still socially distanced for the coming semester. That's what we're planning for. But obviously we have plans for what would happen if we had a complete lockdown again. We hope that won't happen, but if it does, we do have plans as to what we would do there. The kinds of things that we can run, obviously we have a lot of our main teaching lectures and tutorials. Some practical activities were done online. What we had for this last year was that we had the students having the choice as to whether they studied online or on site, so that we had versions that were both online and in person for all of our practical activities. We also did some slightly more imaginative things with some of our practicals. So we shipped equipment and components, small equipment that doesn't cost too much, and components to individual students so that everybody could do some practical activity at home. And we had designed practical activities that were based around component sets that we sent out to people to run at home. We had live streaming of some practicals, and the feedback from students is that they generally found that better than doing watching pre-recorded practicals, because the live streaming allows you to see things in real time. You can ask questions of the staff and demonstrators that are running the practicals, so it's more interactive. And we have all of those as our sort of fallback position. But the hope and the expectation is that we will have on-site practical activity, on-site computer-based activity, on-site projects and design activity, which really is an important part of the engineering programs particularly. And then backed up by the online provision of most of our material is available online, even if it's delivered live as well. And some of the larger lectures we are expecting will be delivered online, mainly because of the likely capacity issues in some of our rooms. Previously, we did have lectures that might have had 200, 300 people in that. We don't think we'll be able to run those in the coming year. We're planning that those kinds of things will be online. Laura touched on the assessments, and we've had all of our assessments run online this year, and we've got some fairly good facilities and methods of doing that. We're still considering exactly how that will run for next year. The likelihood is that the first semester assessments running through the autumn and into the winter will all be online. The position for what will happen this time next year, we don't quite know yet. We're still working on that. I think that's probably enough from me from now, so I shall pass over to
thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. I just add in again, I think Laura's got something else to come in. If you've just joined us again, I can see that some more participants have just come in. This is a webinar for all offer holders across courses in science and engineering, and we've got with us a mixture of our support staff in professional service areas, and we've got Rhiannon and Michaela, who are both students in the faculty, and Chris and Laura, who lead the teaching activities within science and engineering. Laura, did you want to come in before we move on to Hayley, I think, next?
Yeah, there was just a small point to make. So that we've learned a lot during the pandemic, actually, and we've become really good now at delivering stuff online. And we were, well, I kind of been, I don't mean this to come across the way it probably will, but we were good at presenting, at doing stuff on campus and in person before the pandemic. And now we've learned really good stuff online, and we're hoping to basically work out what worked really well online and just improve what we deliver overall. So like Chris said, we are hoping and praying we can deliver face-to-face next year, but it will be a much better experience all around if things do work out, because we can take the best part of the online learning and really enrich what we already did anyway, which, you know, some of it did really, really work. Something else that we're working on from a university perspective is that we know it's been tough for, you know, students in year 13 at the moment, and you've all been learning online and you haven't had that connection with each other and you haven't quite followed the entire curriculum. So we're working on little projects to make sure that when you do join us, that transition goes really smoothly. You get opportunities to practice any of the skills that you might have missed, be that skills like learning, like reading and numeracy, or any of your specific practical disciplines as well. And we're also going to make sure that the assessment breaks you in nice and smoothly, instead of having huge giant assessments at the end of modules and that sort of thing, which we traditionally do. We're going to try and make them a little bit easier to break you in, basically.
Oh, thank you, Laura. No, I think that's a really important point, you know, and I think that, you know, for all of you listening, that's, you know, everybody's going to be in, you know, the same or quite a similar boat, you know, coming into university this year, you know, having had such a disruption over quite a long period of time, which I think hands us nicely on to Hayley to.
Okay. So again, my name is Hayley. I'm the manager for the student information team, and I've been asked to talk a little bit about the support that's available once you join us in Swansea. So, you know, once you enroll and you are part of Swansea University, you'll have access to a huge range of resources and people who are there to help you do your best and really get the most from your experience. My team, the student information team, will be your first point of contact. If you have any questions, if you need help with anything, we'll be there during enrollment. If you need help with that, we'll be there for inductions and during welcome week. We'll contact you at different points in each semester. And we're available whenever you have questions or want to contact us. This year, even though we've been working remotely, we're still available online. You can email us, you can call us. We have live chat. We're doing one-to-one Zoom appointments with students if you want to chat or have questions and just want to sort of be face-to-face with someone. So there are lots of ways to get in contact, even when we're not sort of on campus in person. And hopefully, like Chris was saying, if we are able to go back to campus, then we will go back to those in-person interactions as well. We can help with anything that you need support with, and that could be something related to your academic life or your personal life. So if something happens, it might be sort of a personal issue. It could be something related to your health or your mental health or your family, anything like that. If it is affecting your studies, we can help you to get the support that you need. We can help you arrange for additional time to submit your work if you need that. We try to be as flexible as possible, and we will work with you to make sure that you get what you need so that you can continue your studies and really do your best. If you do have an ongoing sort of long-term condition or circumstance that needs specialist support, we can direct you to the central disability and well-being teams, and they'll work with you to make sure you have the support you need for your teaching and learning activities. They'll help put provisions in place for assessments to make sure that you have the resources and supports and the time you need for assessments. They can help you get funding for equipment if you need specialist equipment. So there's really a lot that they can help you with if you do need that type of support. That's kind of the personal side of things. There is also a lot of academic support. So in addition to the student information team, you will be allocated to an academic mentor. That's someone who is an academic in your program, your subject, who will be there for you when you need them. So they'll schedule one-to-one sessions with you and also some group sessions each semester. You can also contact them whenever you need if you have questions about your program or about your progress. If you feel like you might need some academic support and you want to get some guidance, your academic mentor is a really good resource for you. You will also have contact with your module coordinators. So each of your lecturers will have consultation hours. We call them office hours each week. And that's a chance for you to drop in and ask them a question about the slides or your notes if you wanted to go through an example or if you wanted to get some feedback. That's a chance for you to get that one-on-one interaction with each of your module coordinators. So that's another sort of academic support. Within engineering, maths is a subject that a lot of students need a bit of help with. So we do have a maths cafe. It's run by academic staff and post-grad students who are there for you to just drop in and ask questions as needed. So that runs during teaching each week, and it's a really good resource. We do also have a cafe for engineering specific software. There are some engineering specific software programs that you'll need to learn and use, but there is help for that, so don't worry. There's a lot of academic support that's a bit more general. So there's a department called the Center for Academic Success, and they run tutorials. They have a lot of online resources. They also do one-to-one tutoring for everything from maths and statistics to writing and language. They have study skills workshops and presentation skills workshops. They run things all the time, and they have lots of people who, again, you can contact as needed. So it's something that we really encourage students to take advantage of and use as a resource. Those are kind of the main supports that the university offers. But I also just want to mention the support that you'll get from other students, because that is something that is wonderful about Swansea. When you become a student, you're becoming part of this community, and you will have access to all of these other people around you who can relate to you and who can share your experience. They can help to motivate you, and they just help you to get the most from your time. So we do have a peer mentor scheme, and that is higher level students in each of the engineering and science subjects who are available to meet with you. They can give advice, they can share their experience, and it's just a nice way to kind of meet other people in your program and again, sort of get motivation from them. We do have subject societies, so those are run by the students themselves. We have the rep system. There are lots of things like that, where again, if you have time and get involved, you can get a lot of support from your peers, and it really will help you get the most from your time. I'll leave it at that, but if there are any questions, I can go into more detail.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Hayley. That's excellent. I think that's really helpful to give a flavour of that support that's available, you know, right across the university for all of our students. I think we will, if it's okay, we might come on to Rhiannon and Michaela to say a few words at this point. I think we'll go Rhiannon first and then over to you, Michaela, just to talk a little bit about what you've heard so far and actually how your experiences have been this year. And then we'll come on to Stuart around the employability support. And then we'll come back to everyone on the panel just to perhaps talk through some of those Q&As. You will see in the webinar that the Q&A function, you can see people are typing in questions and people are typing answers, so you can read both the questions other people have asked and the answers that have come in. And as I said, I'm sure particularly Chris and Laura will come and sort of summarise some of those things that are in the Q&As as we get to the end. So yeah, Rhiannon, should we go over to you?
Hi, so as I said at the start, for anyone who missed, I'm a fourth year mechanical engineering student. So I'm in the MEng programme. I'm in my final year now. I'll be graduating in the summer. So, and like Michaela, I've actually had 4 years at the university, 2.5 years, which were completely normal. And then obviously COVID hit. So I've kind of had a good balance of the two, which I don't know whether my perspective might be slightly different to Michaela's. But what I will say starting off is that I completely agree with everything that all of the academics have said. So, you know, we're not just buttering you all up and making you think that everything's perfect, because honestly, this year I have had more support, I would say, than I've had like any of the years at the university. And that's not to say that support hasn't been good, as I think Laura said, like the university in my eyes have always been excellent with communication and the way that everything has been taught to us. But I think since COVID has hit, they've almost gone that extra mile just to make sure that we're making up for things that we maybe not getting so much. So for example, like when COVID first hit and like everything changed, and obviously the university and the academics had to adapt to everything so quickly, one thing that I've definitely noticed throughout this sort of year and a half of being remote is that there are constant sort of updates from the university and our academics and our mentors and our tutors, and like our voices are heard. So like I'm really good friends with the course rep on my course, and I know that she has literally weekly meetings with representatives of the College of Engineering, and any concerns that we have as a cohort are voiced and instantly dealt with. There's no sort of battling between that, which I think maybe other universities might not have dealt with so successfully, maybe. I'm not sure, but that's one thing that I definitely would agree with. And I think, as also has been mentioned, sort of in terms of like working remotely and learning how to adapt to this new sort of environment that we're all working in, it's kind of allowed for like standardization between a lot of different lecturers, because I know before COVID, a lot of lecturers had different methods of teaching. Some would record their lectures, some wouldn't. And obviously with COVID, we've kind of had to adapt to these new rules, and it has enabled standardization that I think will continue on beyond COVID. So that's actually something really successful that's come out of this current time. And I also would say as well, in terms of Zoom lectures and things, I'm personally in a really large cohort. So we've not had any sort of face-to-face lectures as such since the pandemic hit, because it would just be impossible, as Professor Arnold said, to have sort of 200 of us in a lecture theatre at one time. But I find that with the Zoom lectures, you almost get a better communication because you are face to face, as opposed to being sat like 20, 30 rows back in a lecture theatre where you might not necessarily want to put your hand up and ask a question in front of like 200 other people. Whereas with the chat function, you can just anonymously ask a question. And it's actually, from my personal experience, I think more people are actually attending lectures now because, you know, you don't have to make the effort of getting on the bus, going to campus. You can just log on from your bed if you want. So like in that sense, it's actually worked really well. That's not to say that I haven't missed the in-person element of it, and I would really, really love to have that, but it definitely hasn't been a disadvantage. And then finally with exams as well, which have also been mentioned, I think that online exams have worked really successfully. I know they've sort of adapted over the past year for different reasons, and like I'm personally someone who gets really nervous in in-person exams, and the sort of intensity of it is taken away by sort of working remotely. So if anyone has concerns about exams, I'd also say that so far it's been really, really successful. But I don't know if Michaela wants to sort of add to that. Or
yeah, let's go on to Michaela now. So Michaela, you're studying maths, is that right? Computer science.
Yeah.
Computer science. Gosh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
no, I completely agree with Rhiannon. And my thing is, I have not had a lot of experience experience, even though I did a foundation year, so I did a foundation year, now in first year, I've only had about 6 months of normal university life. Around 3/4 of my degree that I've done so far has been online. And I have to say that it's been a change, but it's been transitioned really well. And one thing I was quite nervous about was I was quite nervous that we were going to lose the kind of collaboration time that we get with students in things like labs or like tutorials. But I think the university's handled it great, because with labs and things, we get breakout rooms so that we can go and we can chat to our fellow students. And if we need a bit of help, we can collaborate together on the labs. And I feel like it's really helped us keep that collaborative element, because I was really worried we were going to lose it, but the university's handled it really well. I also do miss in-person lectures, but I have to say it's quite handy having online lectures whenever you can access them from anywhere you need. So if you can't make it to class that day, it doesn't really matter, because you can access it from home. We're not, once again, as Rhiannon said, don't want to repeat you, sorry. This is kind of like our honest experience. We're not like trying to butter you up, as she said. Personally, I think that online lectures have been a lot better in terms of asking questions. I personally have felt more comfortable being able to communicate with my lecturer. I haven't felt as like if I need to email them, I haven't felt as bad, because I felt they'd give me lots of support back. Especially things with your personal tutor that you have. You meet with them about 3 times a semester, and I feel like you can ask them anything if you need support. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else that Rhiannon haven't said, but I think you covered most of it.
Oh, that's brilliant. Have you been in Swansea this year, either of you, Michaela? Rhiannon, are you in Swansea now?
I'm in Swansea currently.
Are you travelling back and forth?
Yeah, I currently live in Swansea with my flatmates, and I also think with campus as well. I've only been to campus about 4 or 5 times this semester, but when you are living on campus, I believe the situation is really secure and following the Welsh Government guidelines. And if you do need to go to campus for any reason, there's lots of study spaces available. Like I personally have been about 3 or 4 times to the library this semester, which is most of the reason I've gone to campus. And it's there, you can book a slot for 2 hours and you get your own little study space away from everybody, and it is very secure. I always feel very safe going.
Well, that's great. That's really nice to hear, Michaela. And it's nice actually on campus now that, we have got students now starting to come back, and it's a mixture. Now, in fact, you can see, just from our own Zoom backgrounds here, some of us are at home, and actually some people, Laura and Stuart, definitely are in their offices, and Chris. So we've now started to get that mixture back, which is really nice. And we've got, staff on hand, our sort of reception, front of house areas are, open for students to come into in that, obviously secure, distanced way, which is great. Okay, shall we hand over to Stuart, I think, now? Let's hear a little bit, Stuart, around employability and support.
Thank you. I've got some slides, so I will try something technical.
Yeah, that's great, Stuart. We can hear those, see those, I think.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of a rundown around what we do in regards.
We're not on the full screen show, Stuart. You need to.
Oh, okay. Is that better?
We can see the notes. We can just see the notes at the moment on the slide.
Let's end this. Can we run it from there? Because
yes, run it from there. I think that's perfect.
Fine. Okay. So obviously we're really interested not only in your academic ability and what you're going to do whilst you're here and study and learn hard, but one of our major overriding functions is to make sure that you leave university in a really strong position to be able to go in and hit the world of employment. And so that's one of my key areas, is to support all of our students in obtaining the skills that they need to go out into the marketplace. So you're going to come along, you're going to have a great time here, you'll gain an extensive and immersive academic experience, and you'll meet lots of friends, and you'll gain a great deal of wider skills. But the first question I'm going to ask is, so what are you going to do when you leave? Which is a little bit controversial, but ultimately there's a really important point to that, which is it's really good to come and get a degree, but if you haven't got a plan or an idea about where you want to go with that degree, then one would question, why do the degree? So another way to look at this is to think about, what do employers want? Now, normally I would do this in an auditorium, and we'd ask questions and we'd have hands in the air, etc. But ultimately, we'll find that quite a lot of students will turn around and say, well, they want to see us with good, strong degrees. And there is some truth to that, of course. But actually, when you look at the information that we've gathered around from CBI, you can see that the biggest, strongest area that they look for is actually attitudes and aptitudes to work. And I think that's really important, and that's why we really want to focus on those wider skill sets that you're going to gain when you're with us. And so some of you there will say, well, that's quite old. Look, it's 2015 to 17. So I had a quick look around at some of our online sources where you potentially would go and look for a job. And the key words that they list and they look for are listed here from these different websites. What you will find is that with all of your modules, you'll actually find a lot of this stuff is being taught to you anyway. So you will do problem solving, you will have to communicate, you will have numeracy skills, you will have interpersonal skills and project skills, etc. But there is a lot of additional things there that potentially you wouldn't necessarily come across. Things like commercial awareness, customer awareness, expanding on your global and cultural awareness are skills that we look to add to through our employability agenda. So just to show you that we resource this, this is our employability team. And you can also see that we have 14 employability champions in each department. So each of the departments within the faculty, we have an employability champion within those departments. So these are types of things that we do. So we have weekly drop-in sessions, we have CV writing, we have employer talks, we have specialist modules, we have a big focus on LinkedIn, we have a whole employability academy that provides career support service. But ultimately, we try and make sure that this is delivered in a more constructive manner. So we have this set across various year groups. So in the first year, you'll get a taster, you'll get that initial experience, you'll be able to go along and have careers conversations if you're really keen and driven from the day one that you arrive. But ultimately, what we want to do is to introduce you slowly into the employability agenda. So you'll have the opportunity certainly to go along to the careers fair, and we will provide additional support for those students who potentially are on year in industry programs. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And as you can see, we ramp up as we go through the years. We'll start to introduce careers talks, careers lectures, employability talks. And then in the final year, then we're really pushing around things like getting you onto LinkedIn, getting your CV ready for you to go out into the employment world. And of course, continuation of those opportunities to go to the careers fairs and go to the drop-in centres and access the services. And then once you've left, we still like to be very much in contact with you. So you have the opportunity to join our alumni group through the Swansea Connect service. And you can continue to access career support, and you can come along to the careers events. They're not just for our students, they're for our graduates as well. So one of the big drivers that we've been looking into is how do you find all these resources? And as you can see, this is just a smorgasbord of websites that we have currently where you can access this information once you become one of our students. So we have very technical things like websites, and we also have very simple things like having stands, so you can actually see things physically as well as online. And one of the things we're really keen on is getting you onto LinkedIn. So we run a special module that actually will help you develop your CV and then actually take you into LinkedIn. And once you're into LinkedIn, then we have departmental employability groups where we advertise all placements, job opportunities to those students on those LinkedIn groups. And it's a really good way to professionalize yourself online. And that's what we're very much driven around, is actually making sure that you have a professional presence online and that you're in a group with like-minded people. And obviously within that group, it continues to grow. So there are now graduates in there who are working in graduate positions and are now looking to recruit potentially our graduates who will be leaving this year. So they advertise them via our LinkedIn groups. So in regards to the year in industry, so some of you may already be on a year or signed up to a year in industry program, and some of you may not have. But if you haven't, you're certainly welcome to transfer when you get here. There's absolutely no issue at all about transferring you onto the year in industry scheme. What we would say about the year in industry scheme is that ultimately you get a year's worth of paid work experience in many cases, and off the back of that, you are obviously going to be very strong in the employment market because you have that experience under your belt. So just to give you a flavour of who we work with, that's just a quick smorgasbord again. It's my favourite word of the day. But there's ultimately, as you can see, a myriad of companies that we've sent students to, and students have come back, having very positive and successful paid year in industry placements at this array of organisations that we worked with. So if you are on the year industry programme, you'll have an additional support module, and through that module we will run, it's very hands-on, but we'll teach you all around how to complete application forms, how to undertake psychometric testing, do mock interviews. We'll do mock assessment centres, and basically give you a real good grounding, so that when you go in for those interviews with these year in industry providers, you are very much in a very strong position to secure that fantastic placement. So one of the things we do when you come back from your year in industry is we would ask you to provide what we call a poster, and then we have what we call a poster fair. So you would actually get to show your poster to all the other students who also went on year in industry, and also those students who didn't. And what we've done, so for this example here is in computer science, where we've tied in the poster fair into a careers fair specifically for the department. So that was a lot of the local employers, but also the national employers come together on a one-day event, and our students who come back from their year in industry get to present their posters, and all students get to talk to employers, and it's a really good fun day. So look forward to that when you come to us. So some of the wider things I mentioned, we do have a dedicated, what's called the Swansea Employability Academy. So that's a central function that sits within the centre of the university, with dedicated careers officers that you can go and speak to, and they also provide additional events. So they'll run a full Swansea University-wide careers fair, which is a fantastic day. Well, actually it's now expanded into 2 days on both campuses, and again, all students are invited to come along. But it's also a great place to go and find, if you're potentially looking for a part-time job, then these guys can help you out. We'll be able to signpost you to them. And the other thing I wanted to mention as well was enterprise. So we have a very strong enterprise academy, and we're very keen around entrepreneurship. Ultimately, we have a lot of funding support to really drive this agenda. So if you're an entrepreneur and you've got a business idea, we have incubation space, and we have dedicated staff who work exclusively on this agenda to support students with entrepreneurial ideas. So if you are a budding Dragon's Den wannabe, then we certainly have the support and the advice, and also financial support there to help you get a business idea up and running. So that's a very quick snapshot of the employability agenda. And I'm very grateful for having the time to speak to you. And what I would say, my one plea is between now and you coming to Swansea, see if you can get some sort of experience over the summer that will help to start to build your CV. So whether that would be, you may already have a job lined up, which is fantastic, and it could be anything. It doesn't have to be in relation to your degree, but it just gives you those broader skills that I talked about at the beginning. So please try and be active, even, go and volunteer and work in a charity shop or whatever it is, but please, don't just spend the summer doing a holiday. Try and get some experience that you can start to build on your CV. Okay, thank you. I'll stop.
Thank you, Stuart. Some really useful words there, and hopefully useful information for all of you listening around how that whole careers and employability function works at Swansea. Okay, so I think we've answered quite a lot of Q&As in the chat function. So if you're listening and you've got any more questions, do get them into the Q&A now, or anything else. It doesn't have to be a question. If there's anything else you'd like to hear us talk a little bit about, again, add that in, and we can get to you. I mean, as I said, it's been a very strange year. We know a lot of you haven't been able to visit, and we are hoping to do some visit days in person during June and July, and I think everybody's going to get an email about those relatively soon. So we're hoping that some sort of small group visits on campus will work, and I know certainly there have been just a few of those actually have taken place over the last month, so they should be kicking in soon. Around accommodation as well, we do hope to offer all new students accommodation, but if you haven't applied for your accommodation yet and you are definitely hoping to come to Swansea, do get that application in as soon as you can. If you want any advice on that, again, get in touch. I don't know whether I'll come back to Chris, to Laura, particularly to Rhiannon and Michaela, anything that anyone else wants to add, or themes, Chris and Laura, that you've seen in the Q&As there, anything that's useful to shout out to everyone?
I think one of the other key things to stress is that we have been able to sort of act fairly flexibly in terms of modifying the way we do things to cope with the circumstances. So one example for the engineering programs, all of our engineering programs are accredited by professional bodies. And as part of that, there's certain what are called learning outcomes that we have to make sure everybody meets during the course of the degree program. Now, some of those we can do quite sensibly online, but some of them will be quite difficult to do that. So we are doing things like, in some cases, we're moving some content from one year to the next, so that if there's some really important practical things that we haven't been able to run this year, then they will be moved into next year. We'll make sure that there's time and space for those to take place next year. One good example of that is within our aerospace engineering degrees, where there's a certain amount of flying experience that we have embedded within the program. That obviously has been quite difficult this year. We have actually managed to start it recently. So we've got some of our students who haven't been able to do it from this time last year at the end of their second year have been able to catch up now, and others will do catch-up sessions gradually through next year as we can. And we can be sort of quite as flexible as we can with those. And I'm sure that Laura and colleagues in science will be similar with the field trip activities, which is a similar sort of approach.
Yeah, absolutely. We were really lucky, actually. So we've just had 2 weeks in the field with all of our year 2 students in geography and biosciences, and we were really lucky. We missed this pretty horrendous weather, actually. So it was really great to see the students. Just building on the employability information that Stuart discussed. There's lots of formal opportunities that Stuart mentioned to build up those employability skills, but we also offer lots of informal placements in the departments as well. So you can work with our researchers, work in their labs, collecting data, going out into the field, volunteering with students and that kind of thing. So there's a wealth. If you want to develop your skills, there's really great opportunities to do so when you're with us as well. So yeah, it's definitely worth looking into. And the other thing that was mentioned in the questions actually was about joining societies. I'm sure actually Rhiannon and Michaela can talk to you a bit more about the societies, but we do have an excellent wealth of societies, from Quidditch to Chemistry Society to the Conservation Society, and they're all really proactive, and they've kept going through the pandemics. And yeah, they're not just, you know, opportunities to go out drinking. They do some really good stuff as well. Our Conservation Society and Biosciences, I think they won the Society of the Year this year because they've done so much work together on things like beach cleans. They've got a policy on campus for protecting hedgehogs. So, you know, there's really lots going on, and they're really proactive.
No, that's a really good point, Laura. And I think, you know, something else is obviously throughout this pandemic time, as I'm sure you can imagine, and you would have read about in the media, you know, there's been lots of incidences of, you know, students having to, you know, self-isolate and quarantine in accommodation, and actually the support that has been given to those students in terms of whether that's been food or laundry, has been a real joint effort between, you know, university staff, student volunteers, you know, and everybody coming together to support those students. And the feedback, I think, although, you know, probably nobody, you know, wants to be quarantining or self-isolating in their accommodation, is that actually that all went, you know, just as smoothly as it could be. And in fact, there was some lovely posts I remember early on, you know, with the I remember one particular student, I think she was vegan, you know, had this most wonderful sort of parcel of all sorts of goodies delivered into her university accommodation. So it was a really mixed approach. We couldn't have done that without the students. And then of course there was a huge increase in parcels that arrived, as you can imagine. Again, everybody sending parcels into the accommodation in volumes that we'd never frankly seen before in the university. So again, you know, students got together and helped with all of that. So yeah, Rhiannon and Michaela, anything else you want to add around your experiences and perhaps your sort of experiences of the sort of wider context of student life, as opposed to, you know, the course side as well?
I'm going to let Michaela go first this time, so I'll add to anything you say.
I was going to say, touching on societies and things, I really enjoy that societies try and do online things now. I'm not actually like formally a part of any societies, but I kind of dip into some, and I really think it's a great way to meet people. And I know in Freshers Week it's kind of a cliche, like sign up to as many societies as you can, but I really say it's a great way to meet people and to get out and just do activities. And sure, you can go out like drinking with them, but it's more about doing the actual activities they play, like just, you know, playing netball or going to a club, something like that. So yeah, that would be my tip. Rhiannon?
Yeah, I think especially at the moment as well, obviously, because there's restrictions, like obviously they do a lot online, but now that we're actually sort of allowed to do a little bit more, and I know like one society last week that one of my friends was a part of, a couple of them just got together down at the beach and sort of lit a fire and had a couple of drinks, and it was really relaxed, and it almost just feels like you're hanging out with a group of friends that you've known for years, as opposed to people that you've literally just met. And obviously you've all got that common link of whatever society it is, but hopefully soon enough we'll all be able to get back to properly sort of playing sports and doing everything that we've been missing out on.
Yeah, we worked really hard, particularly on the sports, in the beginning of term, to really enable everything that we could, everything that was within the regulations, where we can enable it, we absolutely did. And I was personally part of several groups trying to, help make that happen. Laura, I think you've got something else you want to come in.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to, again, build on what Rhiannon was saying. One thing that I might be a little bit biased in saying this because I'm both a biologist and I'm from Swansea, but what we haven't really discussed here is that Swansea is actually a fantastic place to live. You've got access to some of the best beaches, I think, in the world, in just a 15-minute bus ride. You can learn to surf, you can learn to mountain bike, all in the same area, and it's really accessible as well. So I know someone asked if they can park their bike on campus. Yes, you can park your bike, you can bring your surfboard, you can drop your kayak off if you need to. But if you love the outdoors, it's I think, it's one of the best campus, whether you're on bay or park, to absolutely be on. It's really fantastic. I'm really active, and you've got something for all sorts, whether it's walking, hiking, running. It's a really superb area.
Just
That was a good point for me to change my Zoom background. Hayley.
I was going to reinforce that again. Chris mentioned that we've been really flexible in terms of teaching delivery, and the societies and the students' union have been really flexible as well. So again, it's kind of repeating what people have said, but the societies have been doing a mix of online and in-person things. The students' union is extremely active, and they've been doing sort of coordinating events in person when we've been allowed to, and also online in virtual setting. We have ongoing weekly sort of online events that range from Pilates to there are sort of pub quizzes online. There are things like photography, online photography groups. There's so much going on remotely at the moment. And now that restrictions are a bit better, the Students' Union does have 2 spaces that are open on campus, and the students are able to book tables for up to 6 people at a time. Because of, Swansea is right by the beach, and both campuses are basically on the beach. It's really easy to do things outdoors, and the Students' Union has really taken advantage of that. So it is, a really good place to be, even in a pandemic, because it is so easy to still go to the beach and go for a walk and enjoy the coastline here. And the Students' Union and the societies that are part of the Students' Union have really taken advantage of that this year as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Hayley. And in fact, one of the things I do in my spare time, again, is getting out and about, and now in Wales, that organised sports groups of up to 30 that were allowed out. Again, I've seen actually quite a lot of groups that I think are sort of perhaps university-led groups, organising, running along the seafront, or whatever all the different sporting activities are that they're doing. Okay, I think we've got a couple more Q&As that have come in. I'm not sure if we're going to answer them live or we're typing questions. There's a question on scholarships there, and something on graduate employability, so I'll let Stuart and Chris and others answer those on the chat so that we can save the questions. Okay, well, thank you all. I think we're coming to the close. We'll stay on another couple of minutes. We'll get to those Q&A answers, over the next few minutes up until 6 o'clock. But for everyone who has, joined us today, thank you so much for joining. We're really pleased to be talking to you all as holding offers for, whether it's one of our science subjects or one of our engineering disciplines or sport and exercise science. It's fantastic to see you all here on this session this evening. Okay, so for those of you who perhaps getting a bit hungry, ready for dinner, or perhaps you've eaten your dinner earlier, we'll end the session, and thank you very much for coming on. For anyone who wants to stay on, we'll stay here for another couple of minutes answering those Q&A sessions. And I do hope, as I said, to refer back to those visit in-person sessions. So if you are currently in the UK and you want to potentially come and visit us in June and July, look out for those slots and you'll be able to come onto campus, and I'm sure we'll have staff and students on hand to show you around.